I've hidden my daughter from her biological father, and I couldn't be happier. I 32F when I was 23 years old, had a casual fling with John 25M for a few months before he told me he was getting back together with his high school sweetheart Jane 25F at the time. John and Jane were on a break because they both really wanted kids, but found out recently that Jane is infertile, which was why John asked for a break to sort out his feelings. I was surprised, but washed my hands of the situation since I didn't have any serious feelings for him. A few weeks after our breakup, I found out I was pregnant. Now, because of so many horror stories I read on Reddit about the girlfriend going completely insane about the pregnancy and basically treating the other woman like an incubator, I decided to not tell John about the baby. Since I work remote and can live wherever I want without losing my job, I spoke to my mom about the situation since we live together and rent our apartment 50-50. She agreed 100% with me after I told her my fears and showed her the stories I found online. So we called my grandma, who lives in a different state, told her our plan of moving to her state, and my grandma basically demanded we live with her until we find a suitable place for ourselves to save money. Once I told my job about the move, and we put in our 30-day notice to the apartment complex, we hired a moving crew to put all our stuff in storage pods and had them sent to my grandma's. The next 9 months went by in a blur, and it was amazing having both my mom and grandma around to help with my pregnancy. After 10 hours of exhausting labor, I was given the best gift in the world, my daughter, Aria. When the birth certificate was put in front of me, I gave her my last name and made sure there was no one named as the father. He never asked, so he doesn't get to know. I've hidden my daughter from her biological father, and I couldn't be happier. Chapter update. After a few years of living with my grandma, my mom and I found the perfect one-story house that had enough rooms for all three of us to get our own, plus an extra for my office, plus it's only 5 minutes away from my grandma. This was the perfect setup. That way, whenever I had to work, my mom or grandma could watch Aria. When Aria started kindergarten, I had more free time, so I decided to take some college classes during the day when she was at school, and eventually earned a master's degree, which in turn led to earning way more money at my job, plus many benefits. My daughter made a best friend in her class, Lexi, and asked if she could have a sleepover at her house. I said it was okay, but I had to meet Lexi's parents beforehand. She agreed, and the next school day when I went to drop her off like usual, a tall, dark-haired, chiseled man who was every woman's wet dream came over with his daughter, Lexi, and introduced himself as Will 33M. We exchanged pleasantries, and after we hugged our daughters before they rushed inside holding each other's hands, Will brought up the sleepover, which I asked if his wife was comfortable with the idea. That's when he told me he was single and that the mother took off after giving birth to their daughter and signed away all her parental rights. Will then asked if Aria's father was in the picture, and I told him he wasn't in the picture and never will be. We exchanged numbers and made plans about the sleepover and bid farewell. After that day, Will and I kept in constant contact, and after a few months of playful flirting, he eventually asked me out, and I enthusiastically said yes. 3 years later, we are now engaged and are living together, and Aria and Lexi are so happy being sisters, and Aria will be adopted by Will. And when Lexi asked if I could become her mom, I happily agreed. I'm so happy with the life I have that I have no regrets whatsoever about Aria's biological father not knowing about her. I have a fiancé who loves and cherishes me, 2 beautiful daughters, own a beautiful house with Will, and have many family members who support me and love me. Before I started the adoption process to become Lexi's mom and Will adopted Aria, I looked up my ex and his girlfriend and found out Jane had a mental breakdown when John broke up with her a year after he got back together with her for good since she couldn't give him any kids, and Jane stabbed him to death. She will now live out her days in a psych ward until she dies. Huge bullet dodged. Plus, even though this sounds very crass, it makes it so much easier for the adoptions to happen since he's not around to fight for his parental rights.